Yeah, man, what's going on, man? Welcome. You the first person we're interviewing like in this space right now. Space that I built. With my homie Trey's podcast studio. I'll put the link below.
Really fly.
Yeah, you like it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's dope.
A lot of the gear that I'm very familiar with.
That
and
part.
use on a regular everyday basis.
That part, you know what I'm saying? The Sonys, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got the G Master lenses and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm actually feeling comforted by the Sonys and the apertures right now. I feel like I'm in my element.
Right, that part. You know what I'm saying? You got the mustard shirt, you know what I'm saying? Chick-fil-A sponsored mustard shirt. How you been?
All as well, man. Like it's been a good week. You
That
know,
part.
fresh off an HBO gig.
Fresh off an HBO gig. Now, how was that? How did you?
Man, for one, I just want to say like it's crazy getting that credit and also being trusted to put the right team together.
That part.
To work on an HBO project.
Right.
And thankfully you were able to be part of the gig.
Of course.
Andrew was able to be part of the gig. And
yeah, shout out to Andrew.
It just went really well, man.
Right.
Yeah.
But you used to that though. Like you have like HBO, you shot for HBO, you shot for Bloomberg, Apple, Vice, Vox, right? You shot for like a lot of companies. So like how's that being like, in my opinion, like top 5 premier DPs in Atlanta right now?
Wow.
Yeah.
Never heard somebody say that about me.
You know, I'm gonna say it because I'm a brother. You feel me? So
hey, I appreciate that.
I'm gonna say that.
I just think it's a result of making the right connections. And, you know, I feel like at the end of the day, producers just want to feel comfortable. Like, okay, if I go with this guy, is the job going to get done the right way?
Right.
You know, and I think I do a good job at putting producers at ease and just letting them know, like, it's going to be fine. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, this producer, for example, for HBO, at the last minute, you know, threw a wrench into the plan and was like, hey, can you also live stream both the cameras to Zoom so that another producer in Florida could chime in?
Right.
And I hadn't done that very often, but I said yes before I figured out how to do it.
Right.
You know, as soon as we hung up, I'm on YouTube, like, how to live stream Sony footage.
I mean, but we did that before. We did that on two of the Free Think shoots that we did together.
Yes, we did.
So,
yes, we did.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
That was different, man. It's just like different, like working with you versus like working with like other people that I work with, and it's just like you can clearly like see the difference. You know what I'm saying? Like you're an actual like director of photography. You know what I'm saying? Like not like a videographer. No shade to the videographers out there, and that's because that's like a whole different like element. But like you're an actual like DP. You know what I'm saying?
And it's crazy because there is a difference between videographers and cinematographers. And I feel like people use the terms interchangeably.
Correct.
But it's not the same thing.
It's not.
Like you can be a videographer all by yourself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You don't need a crew. You don't need anybody else except you. Like you're a one-man band as a videographer. And
it's a lot more work in my opinion. It's a lot more work.
It's funny. It is a lot more work, but the stakes aren't necessarily as high.
Correct.
But as a cinematographer, what I love about this industry is that it's collaborative.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't grow as a cinematographer by myself.
Correct.
Like, as you
need a team.
You need a team. Like,
as
you elevate and get bigger clients, like, you need to bring other people up with you. And that's one of the things I really love about the film industry. Is that like as you elevate, can I say niggas?
You already did.
As you elevate, you gotta bring your people up with you, and I love that.
Can I say niggas? Niggas. You cool? I say niggas. All right, I'm gonna say it anyways. But yeah, no, for sure. And you know, it's funny. I was talking to Christian Mellum about that too. You know, another great DP in Atlanta, phenomenal. And you know, it's just like all about crew. You know, just like working. Collaborative effort and stuff like that, and just like making sure that other people like are on point. You know what I'm saying? Don't get too lost in the sauce. You know, You know. So let's take it back to the beginning, because I think like a lot of people don't know about your life. Because I know you from you're a Carolina man. You know what I'm saying? Carolina man, Jamaican parents and stuff like that. So take it back to the beginning. Like, when was the first time like you actually like had a camera in your hand as a child?
It's funny because I didn't pick up the camera looking to be a creative filmmaker or anything like that. I picked it up for function. So in high school, I was in a rap group called WAR. WAR stands for We Are Rebels.
Right.
Dope name till this day, first of all.
Yeah. It's like, was that like Child Rebel Soldiers when like Lupe
yes, that was the motivation. Facts, bro. And
oh man, that is funny.
This ain't a music podcast.
That's right. Yeah, we gotta talk about that later on the music podcast.
But we would go to open mics, like, you know, not even back in the day, they still have it, but
correct.
There would be like open mics and stuff like that, and I just needed to pick up a little camera to document the fact that we were performing.
That part.
You know, and then upload it to YouTube, and hopefully we get discovered.
Right.
You know, so I wasn't looking to make like cinematic films or anything.
Right.
But when you ask when is the first time I had a camera in my hand, that was it.
Right. So true documentarian style, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
That's crazy.
About it that way. But yeah, that's documentary in a way.
Right. So when did you so you joined the military like right after? So everybody knows that you are like a veteran, like you're actual vet.
It's so crazy because like I kind of hide that part of my life. I don't really talk
you
about
told me that
much.
years ago. I'm like, that's important because we could be getting like more money
as a veteran-owned company. It's so funny, man. Like you're right. Like I am a veteran, but I think because I didn't love that part of my life, I don't really embrace that.
But you were doing photography in the armed forces though. Like somewhat, a little bit, right?
I was still making music.
Correct.
Honestly.
Okay.
And I think that might have been part of the reason why I didn't love the military, because I still saw myself as like an artist and a musician and a producer, and they're trying to tell me that, you know, I'm a fighter and a warrior and not a creative person. And I think just those two worlds trying to mesh ended up just colliding, and it didn't work. But yes, I was in the Air Force for 4.5, 5 years, and my military career, they called us dirt boys. Right. I know it's Air Force, but we were the dirt boys, pavement and equipment operators, and basically what we did is we laid pavement for runway. Right. So just imagine a dude like me outside pouring pavement and driving backhoes and front end loaders and bulldozers and stuff like that, and just dirty every single day, because you're working outside in the fields. Right. I just didn't enjoy it. Some people
actually like that a lot.
Some people like that. I mean, that's the life of a construction worker. But that just wasn't. That wasn't you. You know?
Do you feel like that spilled over? Like, because you have to be very disciplined to do that. So you feel like that spilled over into like your work ethic now?
I would say, definitely the discipline aspect of it. And I'd probably say the number one thing I learned in the military is being able to stick through something even when it's uncomfortable. Correct. Because like the beginning stages of like even building a business is hard, it's uncomfortable, it's not fun. But if you push through it, like good things can happen. And I feel like that's probably what the Air Force taught me.
Correct. That's crazy. So like did your family immediately like take to that, like you actually being like a musician and a rapper, so it's like documentarian, like did your family like immediately take into that?
Nah, honestly.
Especially growing up in a black family, as we know.
Yeah, honestly, like my family is very conservative, very Christian, so nah, they didn't like the type of raps I was making. Right. You know, so they didn't really support me in that way. And it's so funny because one of the reasons I ended up going to the military, I remember, you know, I was working at Home Depot at the time, and I remember coming home from work one Saturday morning, and I'm just sitting at the countertop at home, and my dad is like, so he was literally like, so what you finna do? You just finna just hope you make it in rap? These are his words. Right, of course. He's like, you just finna hope you make it in rap? Of course. And just keep working at Home Depot, or you gonna figure something out? Because you probably just need to go to the military.
Hey, my nigga, you trash. You know? So,
I wasn't trash, though. It was, right. So hits, bro. I would say
because you battle black.
I did.
6 Lack is, you know, people like to make fun of now, but you actually battle black.
I went to high school with black.
That's crazy.
And that was fun. He used to be a battle rapper.
Right.
Now he's kind of like an R&B rap singer, but he used to battle rap.
I'm in the game, my sport like Hibbett. and any frog you leaping will croak before it ribbit. Hey, I will not house you niggas. I'm fresh, therefore I oust you niggas. Told the fam, look, I can make it without you niggas. I will run up on your boys in my house shoes, nigga. Hey! Oh! You gonna take that? I keep some outside. Champion right here, you know what I'm saying?
How do you feel like being, a Southern man, like shaped and influenced like your filmmaking and your process? Because I always say like people like from the Midwest and the North and the West, like they have, of course, different styles of filmmaking, but like in the South, it's really like, shout out to my folks from like Louisiana, but it's like a gumbo pot of just like different skin tones, different like accents.
Speaking of Louisiana, it was right around Katrina, honestly, and a lot of people from New Orleans ended up moving to Atlanta.
Correct.
And with people from New Orleans and just everybody, a lot of black people migrating to Atlanta, there was like a hot music video scene.
Right. It was.
Even right now, like if you pick up a camera right now and just start advertising music videos, you can get busy.
Right.
Because everybody needs a music video. But
salute to the dude like that I see that has like the signs like all around Atlanta that says like I could shoot with a red 4K video edit color grade all for $500
in 48 hours.
Right.
In 48 hours.
But that's like the hustle of like the South, you know?
It is. And check this out. Listen, $500 for a day of work, a lot of people not doing that.
Right,
so,
a lot of people don't get paid that.
Shout out to that guy.
Right.
Shout out to him. But yeah, I was shooting a lot of music videos. It was during the time where I was just trying to figure out what way I want to go.
Correct.
And to me, I would tell any new cinematographer, try everything and see what sticks. I was doing music videos. I was doing weddings. I was doing events. Like I would just follow around social media influencers and just do day in the life videos for them.
Do you remember your first music video that you did?
My first music video that I shot was with the Canon T3i.
Right.
It was my homie, still my homie to this day, Rashard Mars. He goes by Mars.
Hey, I turn up with all my woes, hit licks with all my woes, pop shit with all my woes, Get cash, get rats, get bands.
Hot Artist has a song right now on YouTube with like 100,000 views or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, that was my first music video that I shot. I forget the name of the song, but he was the guy.
How was that like process during that day? Like, were you like nervous at all? Were you sure of yourself? So you were DPing or you were DPing, directing, editing?
This was when the artist would just come up with their own idea
and then just give it to you.
Yeah, hit
like,
you
here,
up,
follow
like,
me.
I got this idea, bro. Like,
right.
I want to shoot here, and I'm just like, okay,
cool. right.
Not thinking about what's the lighting situation, what's
what's the ISO, what's nothing.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, cool, let's go.
right.
When I think back to music videos during that time, I hate to say it, but I was more frustrated than anything because I remember seeing these big, dope music videos. And just thinking that, of course, naively thinking that all I needed was a camera and a nice lens.
Correct.
And I can create something that looked like that.
Right.
And I just remember coming home after shooting the music video over the course of the day and just being disappointed with the footage, to be honest. Like, it's crazy because not loving how the footage looked made me lean into, okay, I got to do something crazy in the edit.
Correct. Right.
So I got to chop it up and add these effects and light flares and film grain and all these things. And it ended up being kind of fly. I learned how to edit because I didn't have great footage to mess around with.
Right.
You'll learn a whole lot of special effects when you got to overcompensate because the
footage is...
Yeah, all of that.
Jump cut,
cross cut, lens flare, grain, everything.
Right. And that's what we were talking about too a couple of days ago. We were talking about like how as Black filmmakers, like we got to do everything, especially like down in the South. It's just like we don't have like connections as we should have. But like we got to DP, we got to direct, we got to edit, we got to grip, we got to gaff, we got to do sound design, we got to do everything.
Yeah,
it's just kind of like a Swiss Army knife. Meanwhile, like
that's true, man. And I feel like the thing about that is, it's a strength and a weakness at the same time. Like,
correct.
It disadvantages us because it makes it harder to specialize on
And
one
focus
thing
on one thing.
and focus in on become like an expert at, let's say, lighting, or expert at camera, or expert at audio, you know. And so it puts us in this position where we become just kind of okay at everything,
right,
but not really like
great at just one thing.
Yeah, so.
And it's funny you say that, because like one of my best friends and like co-writer, Mike Augustine, like I tell him all the time, I'm like, no, I just want to focus like on directing. That's it. I know I could be the best director of all time.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh, DP your project. It's just like, yeah, I can do that.
Right.
And I could be great at it. But it's just like, I want to specialize in one thing. Master of everything is really like a master of none. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, nah, I just want to focus on directing. Get a couple awards and I just got to it. And then maybe if I want to, you know what I'm saying, jump into something else, you know? Because I feel like, and me personally, like I told you just previously, like, yeah, you're one of the top 5 DPs in Atlanta. I can't do what you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just can't. I could try, but it's just like directing. Nah, like I got it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know
and
what I'm saying?
It's funny. I'm the complete opposite. Like I don't think I could direct.
Really?
I don't think I can direct. I actually get kind of like uncomfortable and maybe like a level of anxiety when I have to like direct a bunch of people. Like that's not my thing. Like I'm cool with like my people and my department.
Right, correct.
Yeah, that's a whole skill set right there. Like without the director, there isn't a film.
Nah, I mean without most jobs in the film industry, it's not really a film. But like director, DP, and screenwriters and producers, you know what I'm saying? But and also like first ADs, because first ADs, without the first AD, it's just like everything gonna fall apart.
Yeah, it gets chaotic.
It gets very chaotic. But so talk about the trials and tribulations like you've had like in the film community. Like what do you see from your viewpoint, you know, being great in this film community that you feel like people can improve on? Because I know we always talk about all the time, like we need more diversity.
Let me finish that thought about how sometimes it's hard for us to like specialize on one thing because we have to kind of like do everything, because at the end of the day you still have to make a living.
Correct.
So there's that, right? Like because there's not enough Black people in the highest
executive
echelons
levels,
or executive levels of filmmaking, it's hard to like bring people up.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So we kind of have to like scratch and claw our way up instead of like being able to say, hey, you know, I'm going to be the best lighting person, and once I get to that level, my people are going to pull me up.
Correct.
Well, when you look up, you don't really see a lot of your people.
No.
You're looking for
right.
a different type of community to help you along. And honestly, thank God that there are like some good people up there that might not look like you, but is willing to give you a shot. Like that's happened to me a few times, and it's helped me elevate for sure. So shout out to people like that. I think another issue that I personally don't love is like, I think Black people are kind of tired of seeing themselves portrayed in a certain light.
Correct.
So like, it's a lot of gangster movies, bro.
Right.
Like, it's so funny because like a lot of the greatest Black films are like
gangster movies.
Right. Like honestly, shout out to John Singleton.
Right.
But.
And his like gangster like violent is like rooted in like trying to like defeat white supremacy and like exploring like what Blackness is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like a lot of, you're right. Like it's just like violent.
Very violent.
Violent.
Very
you know what I'm saying? And not violence in the sense of like Martin Scorsese violence. It's just like violent without rhyme or reason.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Like just murder.
Right.
A lot of that. And it exists. Like it's a portrayal of reality, but at the same time, you know, sometimes I ask myself, does life imitate art or does art imitate life? And you know, sometimes even if you don't live that life, we see a lot of people perpetrating because that life is glamorized sometimes.
Extremely glamorized,
so that's an instance of life imitating the art.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, and also like slavery movies.
Right.
I think we're tired of that. There's a new movie out this year about Emmett Till. It's like, I don't need to be re-traumatized in that way. That's not a movie I'm necessarily interested in seeing. Like,
correct. Even though the director said it wasn't like about specifically like the event that happened with Emmett Till, but it still like evokes a feeling of
right
tenseness,
Yeah,
you
like,
know?
I can't, but at the end of the day, I can't watch that movie without thinking about what happened to
Correct. I mean,
that young man.
or even
so.
Emancipation with Antoine Fuqua and Will Smith, you know,
Mhm.
which I heard is a great film. This is
I
not an
bet it
ad,
is.
but
I bet it is.
yeah.
But, you know, I just want to see more realistic portrayals of
Mhm.
black people. And then it's so crazy because, you know, I think Jordan Peele is
A master.
He's a master, a
Mhm.
phenomenal director. He started off as a comedian and
Mhm.
now he's directing what genre would you call that?
Horror.
Mystery?
Somebody called it like social horror, which I like
Wow.
that term better.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
social
fine.
horror. Yeah.
Social horror, but it took
20 years.
this long to
Right.
create a filmmaker
Right.
like Jordan Peele.
That part.
You know, this
Right.
is Jordan Peele is one of one.
Right.
know?
Right. But I always say like Jordan Peele isn't one-on-one. Like I know
Really?
like I told you, like I know people that are like me, that are like you, but it's just like they don't have like the opportunity to shine. Like I tell people all the time, like my mom was like a photographer. And my mom was supposed to have like a photography studio in Los Olas for Lauderdale, Florida, like back in the day or whatever. But some things like, niggas is poor. But like, but like back in the day, it wasn't like as common as it is now to have like a portrait photographer in the South. That's a woman. That's a black woman. Like doing any of that stuff. But now it's just like I can go on Instagram or Twitter right now and find like, yo, like who did this? Like who did this photo shoot? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then that person can get signed, you know, to an agency like WME or something like that, or CAA or something. So, but yeah, shout out to Jordan Peele, you know, the black Alfred Hitchcock, you know. But so what were some of the films that you were like raised on? Like what were some of the films that you loved as a child?
It's so funny because honestly, I feel like I was kind of shielded a lot of my childhood.
Of course. Christian childhood as well, you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, double whammy on that, Christian childhood, and then also my parents were foreigners. My mom came from Guyana when she was like 15. My dad came from Jamaica when he was young. So they didn't really know or understand black cinema. So honestly, I might have been 18 or 19 before I even saw Menace to Society.
Wow.
That's real talk. Like
that's a perfect age.
a lot of my
you
know, black film experiences have honestly come pretty recently. So I kind of feel deprived in that way, you know, because a lot of times people will talk about like all these old black movies, and I'm like
Friday.
Friday. I'm like,
Cornbread Earl and me.
I'm like, I just watched that for the first time like 5-10 years ago. You know,
what?
So
you just watched All About the Benjamin? It's just like, bruh.
Yeah. When I think back to what shapes my identity now, and I'm claiming documentary cinematographer, things that I've watched recently, honestly, because it took me a while to start really analyzing film and taking it seriously.
Right.
So like I can't really lean too far back because I wasn't applying that information. But you know, some of my favorite documentaries, like, you know, Social Dilemma, that's one that I loved. It kind of uncovered the agenda and the trauma that comes with social media and how it like is changing us fundamentally, like from the inside out.
Correct.
The WeWork documentary.
That was a good doc.
I recently watched The Tinder Swindler.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I'm just looking at how they film these, and I try to apply it to how I approach filmmaking, like the lighting, you know, the angles and stuff like that, and even how they phrase questions to elicit a certain type of response. You know, people think that sometimes documentaries can be boring, but I've interviewed people and they've cried on camera.
Yeah.
That's real tears. That's not
talking about real experiences.
That's real experiences. You can't write that into a script.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one of the reasons I love documentary filmmaking, is because it's real life and it's history. You're telling a story that occurred, you know.
That's dope. Any like tips, tricks of the trade that you would give like a young DP, young cinematographer trying to get into the game?
It's important to know your role and everybody else's too. You know, I think as the DP, a lot of times like you're leading the team and people are looking to you to kind of bring the vision to life. And I think you have to be able to if you want it to look the way you want it to look, you kind of have to be able to give direction in the right way. And the only way you can give direction is if you know how to do everything.
Right.
You know, and it's crazy because that's something you learn, one, through proxy, just being around other people.
Correct.
But yeah, I would definitely say learn as much as you can about everybody's job so that you can give instruction properly, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't look the way you want it to look, you know, you can't blame anybody except the DP, honestly.
Right.
Outside of maybe sound.
Right.
Sound is their own thing. If sound goes wrong, the only person to blame is sound. But like, let's say the lighting is off.
Correct.
The only person to blame is the DP because you sat there and watched the screen and said, that looks great.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But also like how you said earlier about like having a crew that like you trust, because like there'll be plenty of times where like you already know you'll be like swamped by like the producers or like worrying about like the first AC or like lenses or whatever like that, and nobody's like checking for like bogeys like in the monitor or, like, and I'll be like, oh no, that's something right there, that light wasn't on, like that wasn't, you know what I'm saying, and just like making sure that like everybody's like back is covered, you know what I'm saying, so and no, that's important though.
Yeah, and I think that's something like you get the luxury of experiencing, you know, other crew members that are extremely talented as budgets increase and you can bring on talented and great people because they got your back.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really want a really beautiful film, you have to surround yourself with other talented people that know more than you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I can't expand, you know, my talent or anything like that unless I surround myself with people that take their job seriously too.
Right.
You know, so
yeah,
I think surrounding yourself with people that are better than you in different areas is probably the fastest way to grow.
Right.
For real.
Yeah. Did you like read any like books at all or anything like that? Any books you can recommend or like YouTube channels or?
I'm a very trial and error person.
Yeah, you are.
Like, I'm a very trial and error person.
You are, yeah.
Like if I got to mess it up a few times before I get it right, like I'll just take that L, but I'll never mess up in that way again.
Correct.
So in that way, maybe I mastered this particular segment of shooting because I got it wrong so many times.
Right.
You know, so I'm very trial and error. I'm very like learn through proxy and just being around the right people.
Right. You have any like dream projects you want to work on?
Yeah, man. I think I would be completely satisfied. And I think we might have talked about this. If I can link up with a director and be a part of a project that I'm genuinely interested in.
Right.
Because you just kind of go harder. You're more creative and everything if you're working on a project that you're also interested in.
Right.
You know, I think a lot of times as DPs, the subject matter isn't really of the most importance to us. You know, we're more concerned about how good does this look.
Right.
You know, we're the eyes and ears of the film. We're not necessarily writing it or directing it or producing it or anything like that. We just have to make sure it looks good. But I think it's a treat anytime as a DP you're able to be part of a project that is interesting and that can also like stretch you creatively, right? You know,
that's what's up.
And you have to, a lot of times you really have to team up with the right director that's gonna require that look,
right?
That's gonna cause you to have to stretch a little bit further than you stretched before.
Talk about it. How has it been for you, like starting out? Because I know you know, as a filmmaker, you know, just getting paid and then having like business credit and then having business accounts and then marketing and then trying to link up with the right people and then like deals falling through and then, you know, net 30, net 90 type stuff.
I bought my first cinema camera in February of 2020.
Right.
I bought my FX9 and then immediately the pandemic happened in March. You know, so you know, I really had to figure out like how to make money with, at the time it was just a big liability.
Right.
It was the most expensive thing till this day, even.
Right.
The most expensive thing that I had ever purchased outright.
And we do want the Sony sponsorship. So Sony, if you're listening, sponsor my guy right here.
You know, but
because that camera's 11,000.
Yeah,
just for the body.
Yep,
right.
For the body, and I had to make a decision between: do I get a new car,
right,
or do I get this camera? But both isn't going to happen. Both can't happen.
Talk about that. Talk about like the sacrifices of like just starting out. You know, because like you said, that's a huge purchase.
Yeah, and like now you have to pay for it. You know, now you have to justify the purchase, and I think that kind of puts a fire under you. Correct. In terms of making connections and putting yourself out there and letting the world know, like, hey, I have this camera, put me to work.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, that's basically what I did. And it's funny because 2020, there was just a lot of, because of Corona, there was just a lot of news type of gigs popping up. Like a lot of films weren't being produced during that time because of the lockdowns and everything, but the news cycle was running.
Right.
And
they'd be zooming from home and stuff like that.
Yeah, zooming from home, and buying the FX9 ended up being, you know, one of the best filmmaking decisions ever because I was able to work on projects with much bigger budgets. I was able to work with clients that required that type of equipment, and prior to getting the FX9, I wasn't working with those clients.
Correct.
You know, so that was kind of a leap of faith, and it ended up paying off. And truthfully, just in entrepreneurship in general, I can't really think of a time where you take a leap of faith and you do something earnestly and it doesn't pay off.
Right. Like, it will.
It does, especially if calculated decision. But yeah, like when I got the FX9, I wasn't expecting to be working on a lot of news cycles and stuff, but it really built my portfolio. I was able to work with Bloomberg and Vice. Like that was major. I remember years ago telling myself, man, one day I want to work with Vice and I'd be so happy. And funny enough, Christian Mellum put me on my very first Vice gig. And the reason I got that gig is because I had the FX9.
Shout out
you know, shout out to Christian Mellum.
That's my God. That's my God, man.
Yeah, so, you know, Vice and Washington Post and Bloomberg, and those are relationships that I have till this day.
Right. They hit you up. Well, like, you're the point of contact.
Still. You know, so that was a great investment decision. And I was really thinking, like, in preparation for this interview, I was just thinking, like, I was really blown away by the ROI that you can get on filmmaking in general.
Right.
So if you think about, like, most businesses, for example, let's think about real estate. Real estate has like a 10% ROI. So if you can do 10% every year,
correct. Stocks the same thing.
Endeavor stocks the same way. But if you think about, like, let's say real estate at 10%, it'll take you 10 years to pay off that investment, right? But if you think about something like, I know somebody that got Alexa Mini, right? And this was back when the Alexa Mini was brand new.
Hot.
Yeah, and I think in total it cost like...
Had to be like, at the time, what, like 40?
Yeah, I think he got it for like, let's call it 35, right? But when he rents out that camera, not just him, just renting out the camera to big productions, because like all the productions were shooting on the Alexa Minis. I mean, it was going for $1,000 a day.
Yep.
In 30 days, let's say it costs 35. In 35 days of renting out that piece of equipment,
it's already done.
It could be paid for.
It's already written off.
What other business has that type of ROI?
Right, that part.
You know what I'm saying? Like, not real estate, not stocks, renting out just renting out,
working for yourself.
And that's entrepreneurship 101. The same with like a grip truck. Like if you already have maybe like a truck and you just need to fill it with let's call it $5,000 worth of.
To Andrew Warren,
dude,
grip truck,
and
you know?
that's another guy. Like he stays very busy because he has a truck full of equipment that everybody needs.
Right.
There's very few businesses that have a better ROI than the filmmaking industry.
Right.
Like, to me, that's crazy when you think about even what a grip truck can get you. $300 a day, just renting it out to people.
Right.
And you're sitting at home.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Chilling.
I remember even when times get kind of slow, so like usually in the beginning of the year, January, February, I'm able to still rent out my equipment, and the FX9 goes for like $300, $350 a day. You know, so even that can give me at least a little bit of peace of mind.
And that's just the body by
That's
itself.
just the body. That doesn't even include lenses.
Right.
You know, so that gives me a little bit of peace of mind as well, where it's like, even if I'm not necessarily picking up gigs, my camera can make me money even if I'm at home.
Right.
And that's just amazing to me.
Right. One piece of advice you'd give a young DP trying to get in the game?
Try everything. Go hard at everything. Like, try your best at everything, whether it's music videos, whether it's fashion videos, whether it's weddings. You know, just try your hand at everything. Give it a good try and just see what sticks. Eventually, like, if you want to be in cinematography or filmmaking or videography, whatever it is, try your hand at everything, and eventually something's going to stick.
That's right.
And for me, like, I was trying literally everything, music, everything I just said. Eventually, the thing that stuck for me, especially after I got the FX9, was interviews. I never thought that that's what I would be doing, but when it comes to documentary filmmaking, I be trying to tell people, like, okay, sometimes it's not the most glamorous, sometimes it's not the most flashy, like, it's not a, you know, super high budget music video where they're throwing thousands of dollars at you, but
corporate keeps the money flowing in.
Yeah, but even just real documentaries, not even corporate documentaries, like, you're telling real stories, and I think they call it the red thread, the red thread that connects the entire plot line is that sit down interview. You got to have that. You know, you got to have that. So I think what I do, I know that what I do is a very key and essential part of telling any story, really. So I take pride in it.
Yeah, man. Well, we take pride in you, man. You're doing a great job. Thank you for coming out to this podcast today, Visual Intonation Podcast. And I appreciate you, man. My brother, man.
Hey, man, it was a pleasure being here, man.
Yes,
pleasure
sir.
being here.
Yes, sir.
It's crazy.
Yes,
I get to work with you on the daily.
Definitely.
And now we sitting here just talking about what we literally do all the time. So,
yes, sir.
A lot of fun, bro. Thank you for having me.
No problem. That's it, man.